Previously on Balls.
This is Neil Collins. This is bollocks. Utter bollocks. I've just been, we've done Alan Freeze, we've done Craig Rossley, these two guys that overachieve. Now we've got Stuart Baxter. Stuart, the last few days, since the Soweto derby, I thought a very, very good Soweto derby. We had Kaizer Chiefs flying first half. Bernard Parker scores. It becomes a level game. They've both got one away goal, basically. And then the penalty. Stuart Baxter, that's you on the line now. Stuart, thanks for coming on air on Balls Radio, on Bollocks. Stuart, have a chat with me, mate. Did you make this clear in my mind exactly how you feel and about perhaps what we need to talk about? We can't talk about specific problems that we might have with referees, but what about the consistency of all this with this situation?
No, I think, Neil, you hit the nail right there to start with. I mean, is this a witch hunt for individual referees? Of course it's not. Is this sour grapes because one decision just does not happen to fall in line with what you want at the time? No, of course it's not. What it is, it's talking about the professional game in South Africa becoming more professional. And one of the things, if you ask every coach in the league, will be that an important thing is the consistency with referees, and that's what we're talking about. If I'm talking more specifically about the derby game, I'm talking about a penalty being given that, if you look at the bigger picture and you look at everything that went on, and I have looked at everything that went on at every set play, there was wrestling, there was people getting pushed and shoved and actually punched, and no penalty was given until it's a slight contact, a slight tug on the shirt that makes no difference to the outcome. And in that respect, then that is why I was frustrated and still am frustrated. And that is a frustration that's born, Neil, out of wanting the game in this country to move forward. And so that's where I stand, and that's the frustration.
Okay, let's just make that clear, guys. Okay, Stuart Baxter wins the title in his first season as a foreign coach, the first person ever to do that in the PSL. He then comes into a massive Soweto derby. At both ends, there's incidents in the box. It's a hard game. Half the sides were in bandages, weren't they? Bloody, there were three guys at one point bleeding from the eye in the middle of the game. It's that kind of game. It's a derby game. Everyone's getting stuck in. And in the modern game, no one gets in the box without being touched and knocked about. And then suddenly we get a penalty for a single touch. For I've got the picture now going on Twitter of the guy, of Morgan Gould, having a tug at the shirt. But Stuart, as I understand it, if you went through a lot of the, as you've just said, a lot of the set pieces, there was a push or a tug or a shove, and in one situation with Roy Mahamutsa, an actual thump just before the corner came in when he got booked. So that's what we're saying, isn't it, Stuart? We're not saying,
we have done that. We have done that, Neil. We a debrief of the game with the players, I will show them that. And by the way, I don't condone the tackling, the high tackling or the dangerous tackling or the reckless tackling or any indiscretions done in the penalty area. Our players will be reprimanded for that. Don't worry. But I can control that. But the thing that I can't control, if we work our socks off and we compete in a derby game that I think was probably one that the supporters enjoyed enormously, I can't control other things, and that's what we want. We want the consistencies to be there, so that if someone punches someone in the penalty area, then that's a penalty, and if you don't give that, then you don't give one at the other end for someone slightly tugging a shirt. That's the point.
Stuart, have you had a word with Morgan Gould since?
No, we do we're doing our debrief tomorrow, and I will certainly speak to Morgan. But what we want to do is we want to talk to people knowing all the facts. We didn't actually. I was still, until I sat on the bus. I think I spoke to you. I think I was actually looking at some pictures and trying to decipher: was it a tug? Was it not a tug? That's how minimal it was. We had to look at things in slow motion to even say, well, how much did his shirt leave his body? Was it 2 centimetres or 10 centimetres? It was small, but it was there. And for that, I will speak to Morgan. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think what people forget, anyone that's played the game will know that the absolute devastation that Morgan Gould must have felt when he realised that a penalty had been given for what
Absolutely.
many of us consider.
Absolutely.
Stuart, when you were young, mate, I used to go up for corners, or I used to defend corners, and no one ever touched me. No one would ever touch each other in the penalty area. It was ridiculous. And then about 15 years ago, that started to change. People were actually being coached to stop the attacker having a run on the ball, and then the strikers were starting to impede the goalkeeper.
No, you're dead right, Neil. And I'll risk sounding very, very British here. The Continentals brought that to Britain.
Yeah.
They did really. It was Argentinian style defending. It was Italian style defending. They'd block you. They'd put their arm across your chest. They'd hold you back. They'd look at you and not the ball. And we didn't do that in England. At that time it was all it was man against man, and we both went to the ball, and it was right. But it did, and it's crept in. And the more important the game has become, the bigger business it's become. The more goals that are scored at set plays, the more that coaches bring on strategies to just stop you. I think the worst in England became Stoke City, where they would block, grab, pull shirts. They would do whatever they can, and of course, it was correct of the Referees Association to say we have to stamp this out. Of course, that's great, but again, we get back to the consistency thing. Then we need to stamp it out in all ways. We have to stop the blocking, we have to stop the grabbing and the holding, and we have to stop the smacking across the face and in the chest. So if in the bigger picture we are working very hard to stamp it out, I'll put my hand up and I'll say I'm all in favour. But if it's one isolated incident that then goes on to decide a very important game, then I'll just have to say, well, then you feel aggrieved.
What's so funny, Stuart? It's great to hear you talk like this. I've had some great chats on today's show already with Craig Rossley and with Alan Freeze. Is that South African coaches are so free and forthcoming about talking about the game. And let's just remember, anyone listening out there that thinks that this is some kind of witch hunt and that it's unfair and biased. Well, what we're saying, all of us, is how do we make the South African game better? How do we improve our football? How do we make our PSL and for that matter our national team the best in the continent? We do it by addressing these problems, and that's what I like is the general unity.
I have got absolute. I think that refereeing is the most difficult job in the world, and I admire everybody that puts the whistle to their lips. I admire him. I do, honestly. And that is not me creeping and then trying to win some bonus points at the midnight hour. That's not the point. Is that it's a difficult job. How do we make it easier? We make it easier by taking away the inconsistencies. If someone tackles from behind, that's a yellow card. If someone handles the ball, it's a yellow card. But then we have to apply that consistently. It can't be, well, I thought that one was this and I thought that one was that, or for some other reason I give it or I don't give it. Then if we're consistent, I think we're moving in the right direction. And I have absolutely no thoughts in my mind of bias one way or the other by referees, not at all. All I'm talking about is improving the game in this country, and I think that this is an area we must address, the same as coach education or talent identification or all the things that I think me and you have spoken about before. We need to address them as well. And I need to address, how do I improve my players? And I have to put my hand up sometimes and say, hey, you can do a better job, my old mate. Yeah. So we all need to do that, Neil, and this is not a witch hunt about anybody. And it's just an important game, and if you feel aggrieved, you feel aggrieved. And I don't think we're bringing anything into disrepute by saying there should be a healthy debate on this and how we move forward.
Agreed. Healthy debate is what we're talking about. Yeah. I think an academy for referees in this country, in terms of fitness and in terms of decision making.
Great idea.
At the end of my career now, I'm going down to a local place called Denell and refereeing games and realising for the first time in my life how difficult it is. Now that I'm an old bloke that can't play, trying to referee games, even at local amateur level, it is a tough job. And I do admire refs, and I do admire Daniel Bennett. I remember when Rob Smith sent off Benny McCarthy, I was at the Orlando Stadium last season, and that was a huge storm. But when you looked at it afterwards, he made the right decision. He had the courage to do it. Okay, let's talk about. Am I right in thinking you haven't got a game for a while now, Stuart? When's the next Kaizer Chiefs game?
No, we will. We were hoping it was going to be a cup final at the weekend, and then that's been removed from the calendar. And then we've got exactly 1 week after that, and then we play Polokwane in the Telkom.
That's right, the Telkom Cup. Yeah.
We had a friendly game yesterday with all the lads that didn't play against Pirates. We had a game friendly game with
Swallows?
Morocco Swallows.
Yeah.
So that was everybody had a game in the legs, and then
Who won
we
that?
recouped them
Stuart,
over
just remind me who won that?
we won. We won quite comfortably. It was a good game. It was a good exercise. We mixed it up, and they mixed it up, and it was a good one. Zeka was he's a tough in that respect. He pitched up with his team very quickly, and we had a good game. It was good.
Brilliant, mate. I love Zeka as well. Okay, Stuart, I really feel this kind of bonding situation between all the coaches. Obviously, Zeka and I've had Rossley and Freeze on today. Great to talk to you. Great that you make yourself available when you've got such a huge job on your hands. Just one last line, Stuart. Any progress on the idea of a Kaizer Chiefs academy?
It's moving.
Yeah.
It's moving along nicely. I mean, the things that we do in a parallel, Neil. We've got the let's call it the working manual, which is a massive sort of curriculum for the boys, what they're gonna learn about their diet and what they're gonna learn about technical, tactical. We've got that done. We've got a sort of technical director we've brought in from Sweden, a guy he's worked in Qatar with the national teams there. He's worked in Sweden. He's worked in Norway and Finland. He's very experienced, and he's come in to join forces with what we've got to try to implement the curriculum. And at the same time, we're working very hard with the infrastructure down at the village. So at the moment, we're at the Nike Centre out in Soweto. But once everything is done at the village, we'll move them to the village where they'll actually live there, and we'll be able to monitor them better. So we're making the progress. I think we're making good headway. We're never satisfied, but I think it's going to be a massive step in the right direction for youth football. I do, honestly.
Brilliant, mate. So have you got some kind of CD that you could... I've got a whole lot of under 8s and under 9s. Obviously, we beat every other school in Schwani, but I need that CD, mate. Can you put me on your mailing list, please?
I will do.
Thanks, Stu. Listen, best of luck, mate, and great to hear you talk. Not with any bitterness, but in the spirit of improving South African football. Great stuff. Thanks, Stuart.
This is Balls Visual Radio.